everyone out there. I hope you are having a wonderful day. It is August 23 and it's Saturday. And anyway, so I have an opportunity to go live again. And so I thought, okay, I'll just do it. Okay, well, so what I think that I want to show you or share with you or talk about is something I just don't hear anybody talk about. Now, it's really funny because I'm always thinking I'm saying something new and unique, and then I talk then I talk to a lot of people in the millennial generation and Gen Z and all this stuff, and they'll go, "Oh, no, we've been thinking about that for a long time." But my generation did not address the problem I want to talk about, and it is that the older you get, the lonelier you get for your siblings. When you're young and everything is, before you, and you've got all these exciting dreams for your life, and you want to get married and have children and all that kind of stuff. And you don't think about things like this. But the fact is, the older you get, the lonelier you get for your family. And it's not just nostalgia. It is you you miss your family, and people just don't, and the younger they are, they just don't think about this. So anyway, so in my generation we don't address this, but I think we're having this renaissance because of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We're having a renaissance of eating healthy, and we're thinking about our body and keeping our body healthy and eating the right foods and making sure we're not poisoning, that the culture isn't poisoning. Because in the past, it's been, you know, I, I'm going to look at labels and I'm going to be healthy and I can control it. But now we realize it's very difficult for us to control when they're putting additives in our, even our the genetics and the it's not just processed food anymore that's bad. The actual DNA of a lot of our food, our natural foods, have been messed with. And even if you get organic food, that doesn't mean that there isn't something spliced into the actual food itself to make it shelf, look prettier and last longer on the shelves. And so now we're having this renaissance and outcry. We got to stop. It's not just about us trying to do our best. No matter how we try to do our best, it's not going to make any difference if our food itself has been corrupted. And then everybody's talking about vaccines, and if you should vaccine your children or not. And even if the vaccine, it was originally intended and worked very well, what are they putting in the vaccines now? What are they putting any additives in the vaccine? So this is all very disconcerting, but we're now realizing, okay, we need to change this. We need to deal with our nation's health problems and obesity, and it's not just about eating non-processed foods. Okay. And in a sense, we're having a renaissance in religion, because we're looking at everything and we're going, so something's not right. There's something not right in Protestantism and Catholicism, that we are all reading the same Bible. We're all realizing that we process God's word differently. And so we're rethinking. And when you think about it, okay, so Catholicism got the most populous um, religion in the world. And then next coming in, well, I mean, I'm talking about a Christian. Let's say, let me premise that it's a Christian religions, and the next Christian religion is non-denominational. That is the next largest. It's got like four to 500 million people are non-denominational, which is skyrockets above the next denomination. And I can't remember what that was. Oh, I can't remember. But anyway, So, we need to understand that everybody's rethinking and we're making it we're individualizing uh, Christianity so much we realize, okay, this isn't good either. So there's now this renaissance in what is true and why am I going to this church? And so people are asking these questions. Okay, so we're having a renaissance of these radical traditionalist young people. These people who are buying land, they're going back to the farm. The mom is staying at home. They're trying to raise their food, and they're trying to raise their children out. And so we're getting a Mennonite-ish look to some groups in Christianity. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying we are rethinking our system from politics. But one thing I personally don't hear us talking about is why don't we have a renaissance of having extended families living together? Uh, America seems to be the only place that really does this, that we cut ourselves down into just little uh, family groups of mom, dad, and child. And I think we need to rethink that system. Uh, Number 1, I mean, there are so many benefits and it's not just living in the same house. That's really not what I'm talking about, but that could be part of what I'm talking about. And in other words, when you think about it, you can think about that as part of it. But what I'm talking about is Christian families living locally to each other. I would say, within 15-minute drive. We need to start maybe even living in the same city. We need to really start thinking about this because there are so many benefits of having family surround you. We used to do it all the time. This is something very new. As a matter of fact, the Bible says in the last days, people are going to be going to and fro. And you kind of wonder if maybe that's not, what he's talking about, not just the fact that we're taking planes and trains and automobiles and ships to and fro, but we're breaking up our families and we're scattering to the four corners of the earth. So I think it's time maybe we think about that. Really, is that the best thing? And again, that's hard to think about when you're young. But let me just first talk about the benefits of staying together. Let's see. I just want to make sure nobody's. Yeah, I didn't give anybody heads up that we were going to be going live, so I didn't expect anybody to be on the chat yet. So, the benefits of families living local to each other is emotional health. You see, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have abandonment issues. If you talk to people, that seems to be a reoccurring problem. They have abandonment issues, and many, many people are lonely. And the older they get, the lonelier they are. So if we all to stay local to one another, if you're going to eat locally, why don't we live locally? Why don't we have families locally? Because uh, that would pull us together, and we wouldn't have so much loneliness or abandonment issues. And the one of the benefits is money. Uh, People have known this for all generations. I don't know why we're stupid, but it's a capitalism thing. Let's just be honest. It's a capitalism thing that they don't want families to have generational wealth. The banks want to be able to lend you money, not family. But if you were to have like some land where you could improve, families would hand their houses on to each other, then the next generation may not have to be stuck with a 30-year mortgage. Maybe if we handed on our houses, then what they could do is to our children, our grandchildren, they could improve the family house. They could add on to it. I mean, there are so many ways. People have always done this in history. And yet, and it helps to build generational wealth because it takes away debt. And of course, you're not going to get rid of all debt, but you can share expenses as a group. You can have your own little mini uh, mini environment. Uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Your own little mini atmosphere, not something sphere. Anyway, I can't think of the word. But you can create your own wealth that way. You really, we all, when we break up, we all now are on our own to build our own wealth to as individuals, and it's extremely expensive to do that. And the smartest people in the world have realized that's not how you create generational wealth. So you share expenses and you work together as a team, as a family team. Okay, so that's one of the benefits. And this one I think is, I feel like we're going almost in order of importance because the next one is parenting skills. We're not having very many children. And what's happening in this generation is that, and it's not just this generation, it's been several, but they did not, most of them did not, were not living in a home where a baby was being raised. They did not see parenting. They don't know what to expect from little children. And when you have your extended family living in a locally, your children will be able to see, even if it's not their own little siblings being raised, they could see aunts and uncles raise their children. And this is going to teach them because, first of all, it teaches them marital skills because they can look around and say, oh, aunt so and so didn't do that right, or they would at least hear from aunt so and so, hey, don't do this when you get married. Yes, there is. Right. There's family gossip. There's family drama. There can be family drama when you do that. But let me tell you what, family drama and gossip isn't going to kill you. It just, there's been this saying that we're all rocks, and God puts us in a spinning machine or a gem, a tumbler, and you spin them around, they hit each other, and that's what makes the beauty come out. That's actually what helps to make us beautiful gems. And so don't let, there was, what was it that was really big a few years ago? Oh, a toxic relationship. Oh, that's what it was. Oh, stay away from them. They're a toxic relationship. Well, I mean, the truth is a lot of that was just, you didn't know how to get along. You didn't, you called it toxic because it wasn't what you wanted. And I'm not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about a lot of times we don't stick with a relationship long enough to get it right. So anyway, parenting skills would be honed. Social skills would be honed if we had localized families. And this we have lost completely. I think there is such a deficit of wisdom in our world. And even though I think that our elders are not as wise as they used to be, and I blame that a lot on capitalism. And I'm not a communist, don't worry, and I'm not a socialist. But capitalism, we need just to be honest. Capitalism has its problems, and we just need to deal with them. So anyway, and when I say capitalism, I'm not necessarily talking about free market because I'm for free market. But anyway, okay. So we've got so many old people that have just been they've worked so hard, they're looking forward to retiring. They're like, okay, now my life I'm going to get to have fun. I'm going to get to do what I want. I raised my kids. Now it's my turn. So they go down and they buy a house in Florida or wherever they go, and they just have fun. And when your children look at you, they're not going to go sit at your feet and go, oh, wise one. They're just not going to do it. So, I think if we had localized families where we stick together, where we work hard at making our relationships work, then I think we would gain wisdom. And the older you got, the more wisdom you would have. And wisdom is not gotten just by experience. You know what I mean? All older people. I mean, what older person hasn't had more experiences than younger ones? And that is a type of wisdom, and that's good. But I'm talking about a wisdom that's a holy wisdom. People who are spiritually wise. That is something you have to go look for. You have to work for spiritual wisdom. And I do think that when your children and your grandchildren are expecting that out of you, and if we had localized families, maybe we would take the older people would take up the gauntlet of, I'm staying here, this is my life. And after generations, I'm not saying it would happen within the first couple generations, but if you kept going, if this was the trajectory to stay together as a localized family, I really do believe we would get back to the point where our elders would be considered great fountains of wisdom. And then we would take care of them when they get older. We would have the social network to be able to take care of our older people without putting them in nursing homes, because that's going to suck away generational wealth. All these, we would learn to be able to take care of our older people. We wouldn't be throwing them in a ambulance and sending them to the doctor every few minutes because we don't know what we're doing. And we would learn how to take care of each other. We would learn the skills so we wouldn't have to just run to the doctor every 5 minutes. Children, parents would look at their children and say, "Oh, is this something I need to run them to the doctor for?" And the parents would be able to go, "No, no, no, that's normal." You know, and I remember, just as a personal anecdote, I was taking care of my sister's kids, and one of them got 105, 105. I freaked out and ran him to the hospital because I'd never seen a child go over at most 104. When my daughter got measles, and I mean, even though she'd had the shot, she got the German measles. That's the bad one. I think there's two kinds of measles. Her temperature got up to 104, and that was just for couple hours. It was so scary to me. And, I was like 103. That's, you freak out at 103. At least that's in the old days. But now my sister, I called my sister up and I said, "I'm at the ER. Your son's 105." And she goes, "Oh no, it's a couple of my kids. You just put them in some cool water or whatever." I can't remember what she said. I don't even know if that was it, but there was something she told me, because they used to say that. They used to say, just put them in some tepid water, and or put little stuff underneath their arms, a little cool cloth underneath their arms, or behind their back, behind their neck. So anyway, okay. So anyway, but we would know this about each other. My sister could have, you know, uh, calmed me down. If we had lived together and I'd helped raise her children, I would have known. So anyway, and we can help each other. That's really kind of cool. When you live locally, you can help each other, and you get to grow up with your nieces and nephews, and your sisters-in-law. So anyway, and okay. So why are we doing this? Why do we allow our families to break up? And I think it's something we need to think about, and really wonder, is it worth it? Number one, I think the number one reason, and the number one and two go together. But anyway, the number one is pursuing your dream. So you want to be, you've convinced yourself you want to be a lawyer, or you've convinced yourself you want to, I don't know, uh, go into sports. You know how kids are when they're young. And so you then usually, I don't know, wait a minute, maybe sports wouldn't be amongst those. I don't know, I'm sure you'd have to you unless you got on a local team, you would have to leave. But let's just say you want to be a lawyer. So the next thing you do is you go to college and you go and get your, you go into your law degree, which probably is not in your town. And then when you go to college, you meet somebody that you love and you get married, and then you marry that person, and their parents are from Timbuktu and not anywhere near you. And now your family is forever broken up, forever. Because what happens is the children may decide to stay near one parent, and then the other side, they're just left out of everything. They're left out of their grandchildren's lives, and it's really tragic because one of the grandparents will be forever separated. And I know they can go visit, and I know that we have FaceTime now, but that does not take away, I mean, that does not um, take the place of being there in person. We do we should very quickly, and I think we're very quickly realizing we do not want internet relationships. Those are not really what we want. Just because you can FaceTime grandmother doesn't mean that that child is going to really bond with the grandparents. So the number one, again, these are all interconnected, but we are pursuing our dreams. And I would just like to say, it's not your fault. America pushes people apart because we glorify people who leave the nest and go pursue their dreams. And we push this idea, go pursue your dream. No, I don't know very many people in the world that have really been happy pursuing their dreams. Number one, most of the time they don't do it. Okay, you go to college, you get this massive degree. I'm sorry, you spend this. Sorry, I don't know why I'm not talking as well today as normal, but that's okay. Okay, you spend an enormous amount of money going to college to pursue your dream, and then you get into it a year and a half or 2 years, and you're going, "I don't really like this." And this happens all the time. And now you are stuck. You're either stuck doing something you really decided you didn't like or you weren't good at, or now you have to go back to school and even, um, get another degree, or you find a job that has nothing to do with the degree, and now you are having to pay off that massive school debt. And so this idea of pursuing your dream, that's another thing. But I mean, that's been dealt with. That's not something new. I can't remember the guy that does the dirty jobs or something like that. He's been telling people for years, don't pursue your dreams. It's not going to, you're not going to end up where you think you're going to be. And everything is hard. Let's just be honest. Even if you got the job of your dreams, it's still hard. And you still have to work your way up from the bottom floor. And it is hard. And this idea that we're going to have our dream that's going to be so easy. But anyway, but pursuing our dreams has taken us, the family, and ripped it apart because somebody has to go to somebody wants to be a country western singer. I know, and I have people in my family like this. And they moved to Nashville. And anyway, so I need to sit up. Okay. So anyway, and that's really not, I mean, let me just tell you what, that's one of the first things we ask kids. What are you going to do when you grow up? What are you going to be when you grow up? And they get focused on themselves and what they want to do. And I think that's probably just, we shouldn't do that. I don't think we should push our children into pursuing their dreams, because there are people that just simply don't know. And they get this idea that they have to have a a railroad thing that they're going to get on, and it's going to be streamlined, and that's what they're going to do, because it rarely turns out that way. And that breaks up our families. And of course, number two is going to be pursuing money. And this is a real serious problem because we have to be able to support our families. And a lot of people move because they get a job offer some other place where they're not around family. It takes, uh, it's not local. Families aren't local anymore because people um, just, they have to pursue money. I mean, the Industrial Revolution was the number one. Wars and Industrial Revolution have been the most displacing of families, permanent displacing of families. Okay, you got to be able to feed your family. But if we were to start constructing a society where people stayed together and we started developing uh, family areas where if our cousin couldn't find a job, we could develop our own ways of making money. They could work for the family business. They could come stay in the family house, or with the extra, or maybe have a little house that everybody's gotten together and had a house that's just for people in the family that need help on family land. We could help each other. And so you aren't thrust out to pursue money out of the area. And I'm not talking about, I love to travel. I am one of those. I've spent 6 months in Europe. I'm not talking about, but then you travel and you come back because that's where your stability is. We're not creating stability for our children and our grandchildren. And that's the second reason, is pursuing money. And let's see. Number three, just like I told you, kids go off to college, found a spot, find a spouse at college whose family lives somewhere else, and that's it. Unless somebody's willing to move, you know, then we've got a really big problem. And a lot of times kids decide they don't want to live anywhere near their parents. And so that is a problem. Okay. And the last one I want to just spend a couple minutes on is we leave because there's been a trauma in the family. There becomes a uncle or something. There's somebody in the family that is making it so immoral or unbelievably miserable to be around that people leave. And this is the number four, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't happen very often. Some people, you have to escape, and that's what they're saying is, I'm getting away. And I'm not talking about just dysfunction, and like they said that oh dear, I just forgot the word again. The uh, the person that's, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm tired this morning. Okay, so that's not what I'm saying. I'm not talking about people that you need to learn to get along with. There are people that you need. But here's the problem. Okay, if we get a predator in the family, now what do? You don't want your children to move away. You don't want, okay, these bad guys break up families because nobody stands up to them. That's another huge problem we have in our society, that the only way we can deal with people is go to the police. And a policeman's not going to understand the family dynamics. You have to present evidence that this person's a predator. Nobody wants to do it because who wants to have in a reputation for having a predator in the family? So that is one of the hardest ones I've had to deal with in my just thinking about it. If any of you guys have an idea of how to deal with predators in the family without, because unless you can put them in jail, you can't force them to leave. You can't force them to say, you need to be expelled from the local family. And then if you can't do that, then people are going to leave the local family group. So we allow evil to flourish. And so the victims end up having to leave. So the predator gets to stay in the family and the good guy gets to leave. So that is a problem I don't know how to address, and I'm sure that there are people out there who could probably come up with a good idea of how to deal with that. So anyway, that is what I wanted to bring to you today is let's be really radical. Let's not just be radical in the food we eat. Let's not just be radical in our religion, which we need to be radical to, you know what I'm saying? We need to be all in. That's what I mean. We need to be all in for the Lord. We need to be holy. And that can seem very radical to a lot of people. But we need to be radical with intergenerational family developing. We need a localized family group that can take us through bad times and good times. And anyway, so that's all I wanted to say. God bless you, and I will see you again soon.